Gustafson from Satan's Taint and Painward, and you watching RichardMetalFan.
Hey, what's up, guys? Episode 221 of Richard Metal Fan Interviews, calling from Zoom, and I'm here with the great Bobby Gustafson from Painward, Satan's Taint. You also best know him as the original guitarist for Overkill, and he was also in Violence, probably a plethora of other bands I don't even know about. So how are you doing today, Bobby?
Good, man. Real good.
Awesome. It's so glad to have you here. So basically, I want to talk about like your musical origins and pretty much do a rundown of your discography, but take me back to young Bobby Gustafson. So kind of growing up, what were the first bands that got you into metal and what made you want to start playing guitar?
Probably the first thing I heard metal wise was Paranoid by Black Sabbath. It was my older brother's album, and I was just blown away by the way it sounded. And then evolving into like the whole stage show and everything of Kiss, Ace Frehley, that whole thing got me like really wanting to be on stage. And then, playing guitar throughout that whole time and just getting a little better, going through the punk rock scene into the metal scene and AC/DC, and just discovering stuff as I went, the Priest and then Maiden, and it just kept going from there.
Right. And I guess I was like doing my research on Metal Archives. I believe your first band was called The Dropouts. Tell me about that.
Yeah, that was the punk band. We were still in high school, and the Sex Pistols were huge at that point. So we just got into it and had some 3-chord songs that we thought, we were going to rule. I think we did 2 shows and then we just broke up. I kind of discovered metal more and got out of the punk thing.
Nice. And then I guess like right after that you joined up with Overkill. So how did that come to you? Because I know you started in like the around a little after that.
Yeah, they were a cover band before. I used to see their advertising back when they had like, I think even before Danny Spitz, they were doing covers. Um, I had a friend who had his own band, and Rat had a good reputation as being, a good drummer. He was trying to get Rat to go to his band, and Rat wasn't going to leave. So I told him, I says, "Well, I'm looking for a band to join." He goes, "I think they're looking for a guitar player too." So I auditioned for them in like end of '82,
Right.
and then after my second audition, I joined in, and then went through like 2 guitar players. They quit, and I just said, "Hey, look, I'll handle everything myself."
Yeah, be a one-man
And
crew.
yeah, and I got them. We would jam covers, but I hated doing covers. I'm like, look, I can write songs. Why don't we just start writing songs? And by August of '83, we did our first show.
Right. And tell me about like that first show. Were you like nervous at all?
Uh, yeah, kind of. I was kind of nervous, but it didn't get packed, and so it wasn't like a lot of people we were playing in front of, and kind of learning what it's like to be on stage a little more, playing with your head down and stuff like that. But like we snapped out of that pretty quick and had that whole stage show going, and just took it from there. But yeah, I always got a little nervous because you never know what's going to happen when you walk out there.
Right. And then kind of going into 1985, you dropped Feel the Fire, which in my opinion is one of the most underrated thrash debut albums of all time. I put it up there with The Legacy by Testament, Bonded by Blood, Kill 'Em All. So what was like for you the recording process like for Feel the Fire?
The songs were really good. I was never satisfied with the way it sounded because my amplifiers mysteriously blew up in the studio. Like 10 minutes after we had plugged them in, we did rehearsals for like a week up in this hot attic upstate. But we had never really been we did the demo and the EP, so we were in little studios, but Pyramid was a little bit bigger. I mean, Anthrax was before us, and SOD, and I think TT Quick, and then it was our turn to finally get in. But it was all like a new experience. You were under the microscope, so the stuff you used to make mistakes on live or whatever. You can't do that. It's like a whole new experience, just writing it and then being in the studio to record that.
Right. And I especially like some of the best gems on here. Like the title track pretty much shows like the most advanced and like the songwriting wise. And I feel like it kind of like reflects sort of like the new wave of British heavy metal influence that pretty much you all have on your sleeve like from Maiden and Priest. And I also love like the song Overkill, which I consider almost like Overkill's like Phantom of the Opera, so to speak.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we had the big Maiden influence throughout, I would say. The song Overkill to me was actually almost like more of a like maybe like you said, like Iron Maiden, but even a throwback to that punk little bit where it was just a couple of chords and just went straight forward. It was always like the perfect show closing song. So that was it was kind of like the same thing what Iron Maiden did with their song.
Yeah. Yeah. And like when Field the Fire came out. So what was like that whole like touring cycle like for this?
We still played locally, but we went to different cities because we're still based in New York. So we had, DC, Baltimore, Philly, Boston. We'd go out on our own. We did a little mini tour with SOD, and then actually we played with Slayer. We did their first East Coast show, like Halloween. But we didn't get that first Slayer tour till we started to go in to do the recording for Taking Over, and it wasn't even finished yet. So we actually did the Slayer tour playing Feel the Fire. That was on their Raider Blood album. So that was kind of like really our first US tour.
Right. And you pretty much let me Yeah, and you pretty much let me into Taking Over. I really consider this a great follow-up to Feel the Fire. So how did you feel like going from Feel the Fire to this? Did you feel like pressure to follow up Feel the Fire?
No, because we did a lot of writing early on. We used to practice down my parents' basement for like the first 2 years. And we had enough material for the second album. There's very few extra songs that we had. So, like Fatal If Swallowed was on the EP, but we kind of kept the songs in the order that we wrote them. So we didn't take anything from the second album and put it on the first because those songs were just written a little bit later. So we're like, all right, well, we'll save those for the second album. But the big difference between that was we didn't use Carl Kennedy anymore. We used Alex Perialis, who owned the studio. So it was basically Alex and us. And I got a little heavier guitar sound. It may have been a little too thick, but we're definitely like in the right direction of getting heavier.
Right. And I love how you made like a part 2 of Overkill called Overkill 2, The Nightmare Continues. So what made you guys decide to do like a part 2 of that?
I got the idea there was this old band called Angel, and they did the Angel theme on the first album, and I think it was keyboard on the first one, and then they did another one on their second album, and it was the same theme, but it was more guitar oriented. So I'm like, let's take Overkill and just keep running that, which we wound up doing up until my last album with them. We kept that little theme going. So it was just a little something I kind of thought about and said, from that band Angel, I said, let's just make that the last song on each album.
Right. Right. And I also love like the album artwork with like you all with the guns. Like how'd you come up with that album artwork?
That was Rat's idea. It shouldn't have looked like that at all. We really just wanted a close-up, 4 close-ups of the end of the barrel, and just like our eyeballs like peeking over. And we just kept taking picture after picture, and it wasn't working. He couldn't get it. I don't know if the lens wasn't right, like he needed a fisheye or something, but he took hundreds of pictures and nothing ever looked good. So we wound up just settling on a picture with us, he superimposed the background. I think that's a city in Jersey, like Hoboken. That's like a real photo. and he just superimposed them together. And it never came out right. What we tried to do was since most bands had artwork, we tried to take real photos. So we wanted to have real photos on each album. And then after this was like such a disaster, we just said the hell with it. Let's just switch to artwork, get an artist and do something. It's a lot easier.
Yeah, it's still I love like the four of you at the time. You all look like badass.
Yeah.
That's like,
we
don't
made
fuck
that
with
into
us.
we made it a nice Halloween shirt one year. Like Frankenstein, someone was Dracula, someone was the Wolfman.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny. Like, you all look like so young back then.
We were.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think I was probably 20, maybe.
Nice. Nice. It's hard to tell, it's like which one's you? Is it like which one is you on there?
I'm the second from the right.
All
Dee
right.
Dee's must be standing on something because he
Yeah.
looks taller.
Yeah.
Dee Dee's on the end, and then it's me, and then Blitzen and Rat.
Okay. Cool. Still a great album. And anyway,
Thank you.
moving on to Under the Influence. I love
Yes.
this album. So what was it like going from this to this?
Well, the big change with that is we recorded it again up at Pyramid with Alex, and obviously Rat had left the band, so we had Sid had joined, so we had a new drummer. Sid was a lot tighter, his timing was a lot better, he tuned his drums great, and it took us to a different level actually. But they rushed us to get the album out, so I mean we had enough songs just to get that together, but we didn't want to mix it upstate New York at Pyramid. We wanted to take it to someplace else. We wound up getting the connection with Michael Wagner, but he was in Los Angeles. So we took all the tapes. Alex had found out halfway through. He kind of made us really play perfect to a point where it almost got a little stiff, but we took the recordings out there, noticed a different style board where it was automated, and which we never saw before. It's like $1 million board. So he worked the controls. We paid a lot of money for him. We cleaned up that messy taking over sort of loose sound, but some of my favorite songs are still on that album.
Yeah, like Hello
End
from
of the
the
Line, Shred, Drunken Wisdom,
Hello from the Gutter, another one of my favorites.
Hello from the, yeah, I mean those are all big songs, but people just didn't connect to that, the cleanness maybe of the album. It was just a little too precise, maybe.
Yeah. Yeah, and I know Hello from the Gutter was also featured on Beavis and Butthead. So for you, what was that like having one of your songs played on that show?
I didn't know that was going to happen. No one contacted us. They just did it. And I was actually living in California when that show came out. And we were all just sitting there watching it. I'm like, oh, man, there's this new show on MTV. It's hysterical. You got to watch it. And they play videos, too. So we're all sitting around, and all of a sudden, Hello from the Gutter comes on. I was like, holy shit. But, I mean, it was just nuts. I mean, that's when things really, between the Beavis and Butthead, and they had a Smasher Trash, which we were supposed to be played in the daytime, and we had the most votes for Smash for Hello from the Gutter, but they're like, well, we can't, this is too heavy, we can't play it during the day. So you're like, oh, your whole MTV, your whole contest is fake then. So that's what happened. But luckily, we were kind of in heavy rotation on Headbangers Ball. So between In Union We Stand and then Hello from the Gutter, we really started to break.
You're right. I also love how it's also the introduction to Charlie. I love it. It's kind of it's you all's kind of like Eddie from Iron Maiden.
Yeah, totally. That was all right. I'm like, we need some sort of mascot. We need some sort of visual that people can, associate with the band. And they had a cheesy bat that they first drew up, and it got a little better as time went on. But we got, I think it was Fasner and Larson were two comic book artists, and we found them, and we had them do the cover. So I had the vision of what I wanted on the cover, and it kind of explained it. but there used to be more kids in the front. They were like getting zapped by his eyes, and
or I
then they
guess
turned into like little metal.
yeah, I heard
Huh?
it. I heard, I guessing because I saw like something on Twitter, like the original artwork, but I guess it got removed. I don't know if it was like violent or something.
Yeah, I saw that. Someone, I didn't know who the hell had it, but I saw that posted up, and I didn't even know if I had a copy of that somewhere. But yeah, they're like, the kids, it's too cheesy or whatever, and then they just left the one kid who didn't even look like a metal kid, and they left him on there. So that was that.
Yeah. And then we get to, of course, I believe your last album, The Years of Decay, which in my opinion is my favorite Overkill album. So how do you feel about this album? Because I know this year does mark the 35th anniversary of this. So what was like the recording process like for Years of Decay?
We after we discovered that automated board in California, we wanted to record with the same board, because if you made a little change on the knob, it was like when computers kind of just started getting into it, where it would remember where you had it. So you could experiment, and you didn't have to fear that whatever you did beforehand would be lost. It had like total recall. So we found a place in Connecticut that had the board, the carriage house, and then they had rooms up above. So we would record, and they had sleeping quarters, and we stayed there. But it was also the introduction of Terry Date. So we kind of like cut ties completely with Alex and Pyramid, and we had Terry Date come in, and we cut, I told him, I said, look, I'm on my 4th album. I haven't gotten the sound that I really want yet. I said, let's work on guitar first, and then work the other instruments into it, because usually something's got to get sacrificed, between the high end and low end and the EQs. So we did guitar. I got my sound, and then we kind of like fit everything else in around it. I mean, I worked closely, probably more than any other album, with Terry on this one. And he just hit a home run, and everything fell into place. The songs were right, and it was great. I mean, we also got rushed again, and Elimination, which wound up being the band's biggest song, still is, almost didn't make it, because I ran out of time. I had half the song written, and I didn't know where to go with it. So it almost didn't make it on there. We were going to go for 8. And then at the last minute, I just kind of like threw it all together. We recorded it, and then boom. I mean, that just became the biggest song on the album.
Totally. And I should also showcase this, because I got this last week, and the original press of Years of Decay on vinyl.
Nice.
But I got this for like $50, and I look at the back, and it's signed by the original lineup that was on the album.
Score.
Yeah. Is this like your legit signature?
I think it was. Did you post that on Facebook?
Yeah, I did.
It looks like, it looks like mine. Yeah, because I do certain things with my signature. Yeah, that was me. So
and somebody I got this for $50. Like, who gets rid of a signed vinyl?
Someone who really hates us, I guess.
I don't know, but like I said, this is like a steal, and I saw this, I was like, I had to get this. I just figured I get like
too.
Yeah, I had to get you to confirm if it was like legit.
It must have been at like a show or an autograph session that we did that.
Yeah, it's from Original Press 1989.
That's great.
Yeah, it's crazy. I got for $50 for a signed vinyl. Don't have to tell me
for
twice.
Signed too, yeah.
Yeah, that surprised me. I was like, holy shit, I'm getting this.
Maybe he never turned it over.
Yeah. Yeah, and speaking of working with Terry Date, I saw this cool thing. Like, apparently, like, you were close friends with Dimebag Darrell, that he was so impressed with your guitar tone, as well as like Terry's production work on the album, that Pantera helped, that you pretty much got Pantera to work with on Cowboys from Hell.
Yeah, he had told us that he was going to do Pantera next. He goes, when I'm finished with you guys, I'm going down to Texas to do Pantera. And the first thing that came to my mind was, I was like, I became friends with Daryl after. I'm like, you're doing a poser band right after us? Because everything up to that point, they kind of had the puffy hair and the leopard skin shirts, and they were like a totally different band before Cowboys. He goes, yeah. I'm going to go down and do that. But he goes, they're not like that anymore. They're not like that. So he went and yeah, he heard the guitar sound and the drums and basically used my sound to get what he wanted.
Yeah.
For
And
Cowboys.
speaking of almost being in another band, I heard like apparently you almost were going to be in Mega Death, but apparently you said like thought Overkill was doing well at the time, so you kind of declined the offer.
Well, yeah, it was the second album, and we were on tour with Megadeth, and Rat decided that that he wasn't going to be in the band anymore, and Dave was just constantly fighting with Gar and Chris, and they were a mess at that point. I didn't even think they were going to stay together. It was like so bad. They were always fighting. Plus the drugs, I think, had come in to play a little bit, which I really wasn't into. I said, well, if I leave this band, I says, I may only do one album with you, and then I'll probably be gone, which wound up being the case. So I'm glad I stayed with Overkill. I'm glad we found Sid, and then we did 2 more albums, and Years of Decay is always voted within at least the top 10 to 20 best metal albums. So I'm glad I stayed with them to do that.
Yeah. And then you toured for a little bit. So how hard was it to leave Overkill?
It wasn't really hard. It was more confusion. It's like, what the hell is going on? We were like, had no idea. I just got hit with like all different things. I mean, it started with that L'Amour show that I didn't want to do for Halloween just so they could have Christmas money. I just thought it was a bad idea, but I kind of get more notions after hearing stuff that they were kind of planning stuff behind my back a little bit. And, Didi actually had quit for like 2 weeks. He's like, I can't do this anymore. We weren't making any money. He just got married, and then he quit. So me and Blitz were actually talking about, well, who the hell are we going to get on bass? Then all of a sudden, Didi wants to come back. We let him back in, and then he wants me out. And went behind my back to the managers, and they told him, "You're crazy, man. He's the band. He's writing the songs. He's the one the fans gravitate to. What the hell are you guys doing?" So it's just, one thing led to another, and then we weren't even talking. And then I said, I just told Blitz, I'm like, well, you could stay with the guy you started the band with, or you could stay with the guy who's writing your songs. And he chose to stay with Didi. So I'm like, all right, I'm out of here.
Right.
I'll start another band.
Yeah. And I'm guessing like the next band was, I believe, Cycle Sluts from Hell.
Yeah, just as I was quitting, they were in the studio, and one of their guitar players quit while they were in the studio, and they still had some solos to do. So they asked me if I would come in and do them. I'll pay you for it. All right, no problem. I came in and I knocked out like 2 solos, and they said, hey, we're going on tour with Motorhead for 2 months in Europe. Would you mind coming? And I'm like, hell yeah. So, I just wound up learning their songs, and we went out. The album came out, and then we went out to Europe and toured with Motorhead. Went all over the place again. It's
Nice.
great.
Nice. And I believe then I guess next is Grip Inc., which of course you worked with Dave Lombardo on. Tell me about that, because I don't think nobody really talks about that.
Yeah, I did Eye for an Eye in New York, and we just played some local shows and then broke up. But I went to California with Billy Milano, because we were actually supposed to play with Perry Strickland. He was going to do another MOD album. So me and him went out to California, and I got out in California, and I wound up living there for 2 years. I ran into Dave at a convention down in LA. And he's like, "Oh, you want to do something together?" So I said, "Sure." I was still living up in the Bay Area, and he was out in the desert, kind of east of LA. And I traveled back and forth on weekends and whatnot, but it just wasn't nothing was getting done. So I'm like, at some point I got to stop. We're not doing anything. He brought in the other guitar player, Valdemir, and like didn't even tell me that he was doing this. And I just show up one day and he's just like, "Oh yeah, he's the other guitar player now." So not even disclosing that to me, I was kind of like, you know what, I'm done. I grabbed my stuff and I drove back up. I mean, I named the band Grip. He thought I was going to sue him, so he changed it to Grip Incorporated. But nothing really happened with them too much either.
Yeah, and I think it was. Yeah. And I think it was also around that time, I thought this was interesting, that you had auditioned to be a stand-in for James Hetfield on guitar for some Metallica gigs because he had like suffered the burns on stage. And then you rehearsed with them once, but then eventually it went to John Marshall of Metal Church.
Yeah, that was before I went to California. That was when I was kind of doing the eye for an eye thing. Because actually I had our very last gig. We had a gig at L'Amour's. The next night they called me 11 o'clock at night and told me what happened. I had played the show Saturday. I didn't want to cancel, so I played the show Saturday, and then the next day or so, like that Sunday, I had to go to Denver. They set up in Denver at the I think it was in the football stadium. Like they had a room set up, and they gave me the whole list of their set. So it was like 18 songs. Meanwhile, they're only auditioning on 5. So I tried to learn the whole set. I really didn't know all the songs. Plus, the Black Album had just come out, so I really didn't know any of that. So I tried to squeeze it in. I missed the plane flight got delayed because of rain for like 4 hours. James wasn't there. They waited, but then he finally left because he was in so much pain. I tried to remember the parts off of vocals. I says, it's just too much to cram in a day and a half. And I got there so late, he left. So the next day actually was the audition. And he didn't show up for that because he was in too much pain. So there goes my vocals. So we jammed a couple songs. I kind of knew that it was going to be John. I think Mike from Flotsam and Jetsam was there like right after me. And, it didn't go well, put it that way. So they wound up going with someone who practically knew half the set anyway.
Yeah.
But I mean, that was a great experience. I mean, I wish I could have helped them. I wish I would have actually learned some Metallica songs. I really didn't know the songs. I was always busy with my own stuff. Right. But if I probably could have mastered a couple of the songs, I may have gotten that.
Yeah, you would have been the master of puppets.
It kind of sucked because they were on that stadium tour. I'm sure he got a lot of money for doing it. I'm like, next time learn the songs of other people.
Yeah, but and then I guess the next thing is I4NI. I did like the demo in '95 called "It's All Fun and Games Till Someone Loses an Eye." Now tell me about like that, because I know you worked with Tom Hunting from Exodus. Tell me about that.
Yeah, so we talked about getting something together out there. I says, well, I had a band called Eye for an Eye in New York, but we've broken up. I'm like, it was my name. I'm like, we could use that name. So they said, sure. So I forgot how I met John and Tom, but he had some songs, I had some songs. We jammed. We actually did one show out there. My friend came out and sang for us, but it just didn't last. But Tom was great, man. He was like, he could sing, man. He could really sing. And he was just a good guy. It was fun to be around. I didn't mind going to rehearsals with them. We practiced a lot, but we made the demo tape and we brought it down to the convention. That might have been where I ran into Lombardo. But we handed it out, just didn't hear back from anybody, and we just called it a day.
Yeah. And then I guess right from there you did Screw in '96. You did Shadow of Doubt. Tell me about that.
Yeah. Well, the lady I was living with, Debbie Abono, was the manager. She managed a lot of bands like Possessed and Obituary and whatnot, and she also managed Screw. So here we are again. The band is in the studio, and their guitar player left or he quit, whatever. And they're like, "Hey, would Bobby come down to Texas and play? We're in the studio. We need another guitar track." So they sent me, I think, their 10 songs. I learned those. They were recording in El Paso at an old ranch. I mean, right on the border of Mexico. And you could stay there too. So we wound up recording. It was in there's an old house, and they had, I guess the guy's parents made a bunker in the ground because of the Cold War, I guess, or something. So he turned it into a recording studio. So we recorded that. And then I wound up living almost a year in Austin, Texas. And we went on a tour. We did one tour with Creator.
Wow.
We went out for 6 weeks or so with them across the states. And then I think they went to Europe after that, but I didn't go with them to Europe. But that was fun. That was different because they had pre-recorded music on a DAT, and it was effects and stuff that were in time with the song. So you actually had to play to the DAT. So that was kind of new for me.
Yeah.
It's kind of different.
Yeah, but then I think it was some time passed, and then I know you joined in 2004. You did Response Negative, which so there was a long gap between '96 and '04. Was there stuff that you were doing in between there?
Well, I had after Screw, I moved to Minnesota for a couple of months, and then I went back to New York, and then I always wanted to come down to Florida because I just loved it here, and I had some family moving down. So by '96. I moved down to Florida, and I'm like, okay, well, I got to get myself situated. I got to work. I got to do this. I got to do that because I was sleeping on people's couches and floors for all those years, and I'm just I got tired of it. So I worked up until probably it was maybe 2003-ish. I made friends with some guys, and they had a band. And then that wound up being Response Negative, and they're like, "Oh, do you want to play?" So I said, "Yeah, I'll play." So we gave it a go as well, doing a demo tape and actually a CD. We sent that around, and we did a bunch of shows. We played all over Florida, but it was way before MySpace and Facebook, so really couldn't promote us too well.
Yeah.
So that took its course for, I don't know, maybe 2 years or so. And then I kind of really got into working. I wasn't interested in music unless something big came by.
Yeah. Yeah. So you've been living in Florida since then?
Since that, yeah, summer of '96.
Damn, I was only 2 years old. Oh, then I actually have grandparents that live. My grandparents actually live down in Hollywood, Fort Lauderdale area.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. What part of Florida do you live
about
in?
an hour north of them, up by West Palm.
Awesome. I'm actually going to be down in Florida in Miami in a couple weeks for the 70,000 Tons of Metal cruise.
Oh, that's happening already, huh?
Yeah. Yeah. It's going to be awesome. I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah. I know one of the guys I work with, I mean, he does some stuff with that sometimes, and everybody knows each other. So I'm like, next time set it up where maybe we can go with Saints Taint and get on there.
Yeah. And you pretty much led me into Saints Taint. So Satan's Taint. It's like a tongue twister. Yeah. So tell me about forming that? Because I know it's also this year does also mark 10 years of Satan's Taint, of the formation of. So tell me about like that, how that whole idea come to be and that good stuff.
Well, I think there was an Italian band called Satanica who got in touch with me because now the social media had started up, and they're like, "Hey, would you do a solo on our album?" And I'm like, "Well, how the hell am I going to do that?" So from there, I realized, on the computer, the drummer I was with could record me and send it over to them because I was like computer illiterate. I didn't have any knowledge of that, at all. And I did the solo. He sent it over, and then it just got me thinking. I'm like, maybe I should put something together again. So, it was hard thinking of a name. I didn't want to have like an average name. I wanted something like semi-funny, a sense of humor still. But we had extra songs. I had a lot of material left from Response Negative. I wound up not using much of it, but we just wound up throwing stuff together. And Jim, the drummer that was with Response, came over to me with this. And I just tried to get other friends, people I knew that maybe didn't have the chance to record. That's why on the first CD, there's 3 drummers. I got a bass player, 2 singers, just trying to get all my friends. Hey, let's make music and have fun, put it out, see what happens. But it wound up coming together and being pretty good. Yeah. But we didn't get a chance to really go out and play much. And then I just kept writing, and I wrote the second CD. I think that came out in 2018 already.
It was 2017 because I know you had the songs for the Einherjar EP in 2015.
Yeah, we did the little EP, and then I did the other 5, and then we put them together. That's why the back says bonus tracks, because those are already like released. Yeah. But
just kind of like combine the two.
Yeah. And then the second one, I said, it was too much work trying to practice with all the different guys. So I says, let's just do one guy on the drums. I got 2 of the same singers who live down here, and I did all the guitar and I did all the bass. And we went down to Power Station, and we just recorded everything. I think it came out in 2018 because it was like August. I think it was August 2nd, like the day after my mother's birthday.
Yeah, it was August 3rd, 2019.
2019? So must have been recording in 18. But yeah, we did like one show, and there was just it was just too much to try and go out and play all these other cities and stuff. The singer couldn't come with us he couldn't leave the state, so kind of just let it go, and that was that.
Right. Is there like any plans to do any more with Satan's Taint, or is it just nah?
No, I got we're doing an EP right now. I'm trying to do Painward, but it's really difficult to try and get everybody together right now. So I said, look, I've got these other songs that either I didn't use or just sitting there. I said we could probably throw Satan's Taint together faster before we find the right guys for Painward. So the songs are written. We finally found a vocalist. He's in Canada, so he's laying down tracks. We're bouncing stuff back and forth. So there'll be another Satan's Taint EP, and then we'll see where that goes. It'd be fun just to play, and I think I said, that's, if we don't make it big with this band, at least we can go out and play. So that's kind of the goal. But meantime, we're still looking for the right guys for Painward.
Right. And then I know also in 2020 you joined up with Violence. I know you did that Dead Kennedys cover, California Uber Alleys. So tell me about like working with Phil Demmel and everybody.
Yeah, Perry had contacted me. It was August of 2019 and said, hey, you should start learning our songs because, we don't know if this other guitar player is going to make it. They were talking, they were just doing one-off shows, and they're like, we might get a little bit more serious. So I was like, all right. So I kind of half-heartedly listened to the stuff and got into it a bit. And then by the end of the year, he's like, yeah, we think we're getting rid of him. And they were going on the 70 tons. And the bass player, Dean, wasn't going to be able to make it. So they're like, hey, do you know the songs well enough to play guitar? And Phil was going to play bass or something. I was like, yeah, I guess we could do that. But then Dean was able to make it. So they wound up doing that, and they kept the one guitar player. But that wound up being his last show. And then January, went out there. They had a tour lined up for Japan and Australia, and the pandemic hit. Like while I was out there practicing with them, we had 2 weeks before we were going to go. And within that time, the pandemic hit and everything shut down. So I came back home. We didn't do anything until we did that video secretly in Phil's bar, because he had to hide because California was so strict. So they flew me out there. We had to sneak in his bar for the day, invited a bunch of friends, and recorded it in Phil's bar. So they had put that together just to hold off before the album could be released. So we just wanted to put something out there. But it was great. It was a fun experience. Phil's a great guitar player. Finally got a chance to actually play with my friend Perry. And 2 years ago we did the big festivals, which I never got a chance to do with Overkill. And I kind of regretted that. And we wound up doing 3 of them. We got Alcatraz and Bloodstock and whatnot. And I mean, that was probably the biggest audiences I had played to, at a single show. So that was fun. We had a good time, but it just got too expensive to have me keep flying out there. Prices of things have gotten crazy, and it's just, we're spending so much on getting me there that, we kind of just separated. I think they're out still playing though. They got another guitar player who was filling in for Phil when he went to Lamb of God and Overkill, and they kept that guy because he lives in LA. So they're still doing shows.
Yeah, because because I did see Violence back in 2021. There was this festival in Atlanta called what was it? Mass Destruction Metal Fest.
Yeah, that was probably my second show.
Oh shit! And I was there, and I didn't even realize you were playing at the time. I was mostly stoked because this holy shit Phil Demmel, because I loved him with Machine Head and stuff.
We did one show in Fresno, and then we all got COVID. So we were supposed to play Las Vegas. There was a festival in Las Vegas. We had to cancel because we got COVID. And then, I think that was the next show. We did Atlanta, and then we flew out the next day and played Chicago.
Wow.
Those little one-offs, but it was it's weird because all you have is your guitar. So Perry's on a different drum kit every night. I'm on different amps every night. There's no crew. There's no sound guy. It's every show was kind of get up there and hope for the best.
Yeah. And then I know in 22 you also did the Let the World Burn EP in 22. So how was that being a part of the Violence Legacy? Because that was their first EP release of new material in almost 30 years.
Yeah, I mean that came out great. I mean that's a really strong EP, and that they're still kind of even playing shows on that. So they had the entire first album is usually in the set, a couple from the second, and then we would do 2 off of the EP. But it was great to they recorded out in California, so I had to fly out there for that, just to record again. But I mean, it's good. It's good to be back on, Metal Blade, and good to be, with guys recording again. It was just a killer time.
Yeah. Yeah. And then of course you have your new band, Painward, which of course you've
Mhm.
announced last year. So what's the status with that? When can we expect some like some new songs?
I've got the album written, and I actually wrote some extra songs while I was waiting. I came up with 3 other songs that actually pushed 2 songs off, which are going to wind up being on the EP. Mike from Massacre has been a longtime friend. He lived down in Lauderdale. We've known each other over 20 years. So he's going to do bass. I'm actually looking for a different drummer. I think I'm going to use Jim just for Satan's Taint, so it's different. So we have a drummer right now that we're talking with from Ohio. We had a singer here, but he's kind of MIA right now. I don't know what happened. I think he caught COVID a couple of weeks ago, and then he just disappeared. So we're still searching for a singer, and I want to get the right guy. So I'm taking my time, because it's just so much judgment of a band is always put on what the singer sounds like.
Right.
You either love it or hate it. Same thing with Blitz. Same thing with Sean. You either loved it or hated it. So I'm trying to get something that's going to be more people that love it.
Right.
But
Right.
the songs are done, man. They're great. They're like sharp and to the point. There's no bullshit. There's no clean parts. They're all like aggressive. I'm excited about it. I can't get it out yet. I'm trying. Everyone's in 5 bands. I mean, I'm literally asking people that are already in bands to be like, hey, could you add another band on your list of 5 people you fucking play with? It's hard. South Florida has always been hard to find musicians. It's been that way since I started playing down here.
Yeah, because that's weird because I always consider Florida to be like the scene of like the death metal bands like Obituary, Deicide, Morbid Angel, and shit like that.
Yeah, most of the musicians, they seem to be in Tampa, Orlando area. Tampa's about 3 hours and Orlando's about 2 hours, which isn't that bad. To do like a person rehearsal, it's not a bad deal, because sometimes I'll go up there just to see a show and drive back. And there are some good musicians down here, but it's just everyone is already playing, so their time is taken up with whoever they're with. It's hard to get. We got Derek Roddy down here on drums, Patrick Johansson on drums, but they're all busy.
Right. You gotta like find somebody that's on the same page as you.
Yeah, but the critical element is going to be that singer. So we got to find the right guy. And there's too many. I mean, I'm going to have that vocals on Satan's Taint because it fits, but there's too many of the Cookie Monster vocals, and I don't want to go too far with the dirty, and I don't want to go too far with the clean. So I'm trying to find somebody in the middle.
Yeah, try to find like a good balance.
Yeah.
Right. So thank you, Bobby, for this chat. It was great to be able to know about your history and stuff. Is there just anything else you would like to plug or anything you want to say to the viewers to close us out?
I think I pretty much plugged everything. It just bear with me. I'm trying to get Painward out. I think you'll be definitely very happy with what I wrote once that comes out. So just hit me up on the socials and keep in touch.
Yeah, it'll be worth the wait. So everybody, Bobby Gustafson of Painward and Satan's Taint. See you next time.